All right. I think we should be live. I hit go live. As you're joining in, say hello in the chat. And hopefully both the chats come through. So I'm streaming on LinkedIn and YouTube. Usually they come through into one streamlined platform where I can see everything. But occasionally there's been an issue with it. So I'm going to check both streams as we get going here in their separate links so I can see the chat natively just to make sure. And as you're joining, say hello, maybe where you're watching from, why you're interested in MCP, or if you've already been building with it. If you haven't, hopefully this will be a good, why is the other one not? LinkedIn says not live. YouTube is live. Let me just, says it's live. There might be some technical difficulties on the LinkedIn stream. If anyone is trying to tune in over there, give me 1 second, everyone. And again, as you're joining in, say hello in the chat. Haven't seen a hello yet. I see people joining though. Okay, I think we are live on LinkedIn too. Again, hopefully the comments will come over there. Okay. Oops. You might hear the audio. All right. Cool. We are good everywhere. How's everyone going? I see someone said hello in the chat. Awesome. Kenny Ha. I'm going to share my screen and I'll talk a little bit about what this stream is as well. Cool. And I see LinkedIn coming in now on the chat as well. Hello, John. They're continuing their growth in AI agents, AI platform engineering. Welcome. Awesome. Excited to have people here. I'm going to share this link out for the chat as well. So basically, this is the first time doing this type of stream. So we'll probably, figure out, better ways to do this or adjust things in the future. But kind of the premise of this is I wanted to do well, wait a minute as people are joining because it just turned 12 p.m. now before I go into the whole spiel, I guess. But there's the link to the GitHub. So I'm going to be tracking the projects for the week. And then also, and I'll probably share this link a couple times, and it's all in the GitHub here, but there is a Slack channel as well. So if you want to discuss the type of project during the week, you can join the Slack channel. I make a thread. So again, this is the first time doing it, so kind of figuring it out, but I made a thread for MCP this week, and I was putting in resources that I thought was interesting if you're getting started in it. And then you can share your projects there too. So I don't know if this week being the first time, if people actually went ahead and studied anything about MCP. But if you did, the point of the Slack channel is that you can share your findings in there, or you can share your projects in there as well. And all right, so now that we're kind of a minute in, I see a lot more people joined. The idea of the stream, again, this is the first one, so maybe we'll adjust it a little bit. But this is going to be hopefully a weekly-ish stream. I'm sure there'll be Fridays where I can't make it because I travel quite a bit for work as well. But if you've come to my streams in the past, I've done a lot of more structured workshops where I'll spend a lot of time making content that makes it easier for you to follow along and learn something. And I've also done a lot of AI book club streams, which some of you may have attended before as well. And we used to do them weekly for the AI book clubs, but it was a lot to try and read, and sometimes you want to do other things. So the idea of this stream is that we can pick a new topic for the week, and then the idea is kind of at the bare minimum, maybe spend an hour learning that topic. And by a topic, I think I mean, for it to work in the structure, I think it's going to be like a topic and then how to do that thing with a specific tool. So something that you can kind of learn quite a bit in an hour. So not just reinforcement learning, the general field, but for example, like reinforcement learning with OpenM, which is a newer end-to-end framework for creating environments. And I want to play around with it. There's so many tools and so many models that come out almost every day, pretty much. And it's hard to carve out time to get familiar with them. So I wanted to use this as at least the bare minimum of forcing function for me, and hopefully some of you as well, that want to play around with those new tools. You can spend an hour or more, right? I think for me, at a bare minimum, I'm going to try spending an hour and then building some sort of simple MVP demo with that kind of tool. And then I'm going to talk about it on the stream. And then other people, if you want to join this stream as well, actually up on the video or audio, you're welcome to. I can share out the link. But I know a lot of people tend to just stay discussing in chat, which is totally fine. But I do want to eventually have more people up in the stream as we get more regulars as well. And if you want to like present on your project, if you built something cool, you can share it and actually show off the code. You're more than welcome to do that as well. So it's kind of the premise of this stream style overall. And it's going to be kind of semi-casual where, again, if you've come to like my workshops in the past, way more structured. I make sure that you can follow along. We take breaks to make sure that people are progressing, etc. This isn't going to be exactly that style. It's going to be more casual discussion around the topic. And then I will have built, like I said, some MVP around it. Maybe it'll be polished. It probably won't always be that polished because I won't be spending that much time on it either as well. And then we'll talk about our findings. So for this one, I just had it labeled as MCP. For me, I ended up using fast MCP to build the server. So if other people did build an MCP with something else, that's totally fine. But I think going forward, I'm going to be kind of labeling specific tools. And before we jump into the MCP part here, I'd love for you in the chat to put what would you want the next ones to be, like some sort of topic or a specific tool that you've been interested in learning or that you've seen come out and maybe haven't made time for it yet. The next one we have next week is going to be agentic search with Tavili. And then the week after that is reinforcement learning, and you fix that typo, with OpenEnv, which I had mentioned is an end-to-end framework, a new one from the Meta in the PyTorch Foundation that seems really cool and promising for building kind of lightweight gymnasium style API environments for doing reinforcement learning. So those are the 3 we have so far, and I purposely did not schedule more out, even though there's so many different tools I want to play around with, but I wanted to leave it open for what does the community want to learn next. So I'm going to pause here, and hopefully people are going to throw some ideas in the chat, which I'm watching. Also, I have a new camera, and I notice I look kind of dim here, so I'm going to have to mess with that setting before the next stream. Someone said, how are you? I'm doing great. How is everyone else doing? Again, put in the chat maybe where you're watching from at a bare minimum. But really, I think it'd be fun to learn about what other tools other people want to use or topics to learn about. And then we can kind of narrow that down to maybe a specific tool. Or some of the topics just might always have like a given tool for it. Like if you're doing fine tuning, large language models, like I would use Hugging Face for that. For like the open source model part. Someone said, what about MCP for universal web scraping? Cool, interesting topic. We can maybe do like a web scraping one. We'll be talking about MCP today, and you can extend what we're going to talk about today into a lot of your use cases. So anyway, I want to throw that out there. Give me topics. We'll dive into the MCP part here. And then also, I'll throw this link out again. There's a Slack channel. So again, if you want to post your progress, share links, see what I'm going to be sharing throughout the week before the stream, because some people probably won't even be able to join the stream, but if you still kind of want to be part of this, you can join that Slack channel, and then I'll create a new thread for the topic every week, and then we can discuss in there. It's inside the channel that's ML and AI. That's where I'm putting the threads right now. So join there, look at that channel. There's also a general introduction channel. Someone said they want to build a chatbot to help with daily productivity. So we could do like a chatbot type of thing, actually, maybe. And maybe it's like Gradio or even some of the stuff with MCP will be useful potentially if you want to connect to multiple chatbots. So the way I structured this as well, you'll see the upcoming events here. I'll add a past table in the future once we're done with the first event here. And then there's a button for code and register. The register takes you to like the Luma event where you can register. That's going to be the best place to get consistent communication and make sure you get the updated live link and everything. I do cross post the event to meetups, but kind of Luma's the source of truth. And it just makes it easier for me to streamline posting everywhere. So again, if you want to play around with any of the code I'm going to show today, or even do a pull request and add your own in, or just you can send me links and I will add them into like a community section here. You can go to that link that I just shared. Let me share it in the LinkedIn chat real quick as well. And then again, this isn't a structured workshop, so I'm going to walk through like what I did, and hopefully if you want to follow along, like you can, but I hope that other people want to kind of build their own stuff here. Someone said how to make a simple MCP to track token usage in Claude Desktop. we could look into that. Token usage could be interesting. I don't know if it needs to be an MCP server for that. We could look into. I don't know if anyone else has played around with that. That's what this is. Hopefully going to be a fun stream for cool ideas like this, and then people can discuss it and tell you maybe how they would approach start building that. So this is the MCP event. Real quick. So this is, again, I'm using fast MCP is what I ended up using here. There's other tools that you can use, but we're going to show real quick how to build an MCP server and then consume that server with fast MCP. And then I'm going to do a quick little demo of just like consuming that in OpenAI, consuming it with Claude, and then also I made a little tiny Gradio app that can interface with an MCP. And there's a couple, I made 2 examples of an MCP server today, both with fast MCP. Has anyone used fast MCP or any other MCP type of tools? We've probably all consumed MCPs, but I don't know if anyone's created them before. Someone said, build AWS Ops agent with Amazon Bedrock Agent Core. Good idea, too. I'll look at the Agent Core library. I think a lot of times, too, I haven't used Agent Core, so I don't know if you can use it outside of Bedrock, which I'm not against looking into some of the platform stuff, too. But I think a lot of times also, we want to make it accessible for like kind of libraries that people can use on their own computer, if possible, as well. And I know they have like, I forget what it's called, like a Swarm agent one that seemed really interesting, too, from AWS as well. And John said, when MCPs have access to multiple tools, how to have the right tool call based on a simple prompt. Well, we'll go through and see how to define this, and then maybe we can dive deeper into those questions around doing an MCP. But again, has anyone built an MCP server before? And if you thought it was going to be hard, I think hopefully you'll see today that it's actually not that hard. With both, there's the official MCP library and then the fast MCP. Both are fairly easy to use. I think fast MCP is even easier. I think at least it used to rely on the MCP library, and then they were like putting features across together and stuff like that. But I think fast MCP has a new fork now, so I think there's some difference. So it said they haven't built it yet. Awesome. Well, again, hopefully you'll see that it's actually not going to be very hard for you to build an MCP server today. And I've said MCP so many times. I'm probably going to keep saying it, but it feels weird to say it so many times here. So what is MCP? Model Context Protocol. Probably already know that. It's a standard protocol for exposing the tools and context to language models that came from Anthropic. There's the original Anthropic blog post. I think I linked to it in the README here, and I definitely did in the Slack channel. So instead of every framework inventing its own tool format, MCP is really just a definition of how those tool calls are structured. And we'll see an example of what that looks like today. But if you've built an agent before, another question, who has built an agent? And if you've built an agent, have you defined your own tools? And again, you could be using something like LangGraph, No Framework, Crew AI. Basically, you're defining your tools, and then you're passing those to your LLM, usually in the form of like a prompt, like, hey, here's a selection of tools, choose which ones to call from. So if you're familiar with that, actually, as you'll see here in a second when we get to the code, building an MCP is not much different than defining your tool calls for an LLM, but you're just exposing it in a generic way that then you can and you could have it hosted locally or hosted somewhere else, and then you could point an agent or something to it, and then you don't have to redefine those tools for multiple agents, basically. And that's really what the MCP does here. So you have your client, which is the agent who wants to learn about the tools. So that's like you're doing a call from OpenAI or Claude or whatever your agent is. You could be connecting it to Claude Chat. They actually have built-in areas now for a lot of the IDEs and most of the chatbots where you can just connect your own MCP. And then that'll give it a list of tools. I can go query and see which tools are available. And then it'll give the tool schema back to the client saying, this is how you would actually use it. And they can call the tools. And then these tools can be, as we'll see here in a second with the code, but they can be simple functions. They can be other calls to LMs. They can be HTTP requests, like for an API. They can be all sorts of different things. And it's up for you to define what's in that MCP server. And then you get the final results returned. So again, just saying you have one server here, define the tools once. We're going to do a little demo up here, and then we'll have a more specialized agent or a more specialized MCP server to kind of show maybe more of a realistic use case. But then you can connect to it between all your different LMs or agents here. So again, we're going to build a super simple server at first with just some kind of generic different functions in here. And these are to show like how to build different functions into your server. But realistically, you probably make a more specialized server for like your tool, or to be good at something. Like you could build like an MLE MCP server that has all these different ML engineering functions pre-built in, so it knows how to do things, or give it context for certain libraries like scikit-learn, PyTorch, etc. And so we're going to build a specialist little data analysis server that we'll use secondly after we play around with the first one. And this will connect to a kind of fake database here, but realistically it could query out to a real database or do calls somewhere. And then it's going to have pre-built more complex functions. So with the MCP server, you can not just do like simple tool calls, we can actually have really complex things that can do a lot of filtering or anything you can think of, right, in programming, and then have that returned to the LM. So if you do want to follow along, you could clone this repo. Should be pretty easy to set up. If you already have UV installed in particular, just UV install a Python environment and then activate it, install the requirements, and then go into the MCP folder here. And so I'll go through. This is the first server that we created. So let me catch up on chat real quick. I'll share the link one more time. This is directly to the folder. And catching up on chat real quick. Someone said, watching from New Techie Hacker Hub in Miami. A Hacker Hub sounds fun. Oh, and they said they thought my camera shading was a cool vibe. Well, thank you. Like I was saying, it's dimmer than normal. I have a new camera, and I'm not sure what's going on with the settings in it, so I will have to play around with it. But I'm glad it looks like a cool vibe. Someone said, yes, they have built an MCP server, but not with fast MCP. Someone said they've practiced with Python MCP SDK. Yeah, I think I have the link up for that one. That's like the official SDK. Like I was saying, fast MCP at least used to be like a kind of a wrap around it. And then fast MCP actually merged some of their stuff in, or MCP merged some of their stuff from fast MCP into the official MCP client. And then there's like another iteration of fast MCP that has some other stuff around like developer experience and stuff that I think is a little bit easier, but both SDKs are great to work with. And then someone also said they've used LangChain tools to create agent just as an exploration. Yeah, so if you've used LangChain tools, you'll see with fast MCP, it's actually going to feel probably pretty similar and almost very easy. Like hopefully, again, easier than you thought to build a MCP server today. So we're just going to do our imports, fast MCP, a few other things that we're going to use in our tools here. And then we're going to define our tool. Very easy. We just add this mcp.tool decorator on top of a Python function. So this is a super simple tool here. Again, we'll look at more complex ones later, but we're just creating an add function that an LM can call. So if you remember historically, LMs were really bad at math. And if you're using a small LM, you still might want to do something like this. Like you could create a calculator MCP and then have all these different functions in there. And then you could have all the different agents that you're always building just point to this calculator MCP and have access to all these different functions that you're building. And again, this is super simple. We add a doc string. This gets exposed to in the server as how to use the tool or some info about the tool. So this isn't a very good doc string here, but it's a simple one. So it can figure out that the input is A and B, and that's what's going to be added together. But you could add like how to use this a little bit more in the doc string, which I would probably recommend if you have more complex tools as well, like what the arguments are that are being passed in. Same with multiply. Again, just defining it very similar as the one above. And then we have this external tool state. I actually don't think I use this in my demo here, but this can read a text file here. And then we have this external API tool. So this is often what you're doing as well if you're connecting with an API, like if you're building this for your own platform and you want to give information to agents on how to use it. In this case, we're doing the classic agent thing where we're going to do a weather query. We're using this API here. It's a free one and it fails sometimes. So I did add a little wrapper to try it. And if not, just say error, the weather was unavailable for this location. So just as a warning, if you're using this, it's a really good one to use for demos and stuff, but it does fail quite a bit out of the box just from my experience, but most of the time works. And then this just gets the current weather for that location that we're going to pass in. And then we have this DuckDuckGo. This is a free kind of search tool that you can just pip install. That's really easy to get started. Again, good for demos. If you need actual search in agents, though, I would recommend using some other tool like Tavili or something like that that can give better results. But DuckDuckGo is a really good start, just adding some context in or doing a quick search result like we're going to see here today. And then we just have this fetch web page, so it could scrape a web page. Someone asked about page scraping. I mean, again, not really relevant to specifically just MCP here, but this is like a simple fetch page for a URL that we're going to pass in. So you can do a search, find a URL, pass that in, and get the whole page if you want. And then I have this other little simple one that just has a predefined greeting here. And I already have it started. Let me spin this down. So to start up the MCP server, all we're just going to do is say Python server.py. And now it's up and running on my local port 8000. So now we can connect to it from a client. So I have two that I kind of pre-built here. One is a Claude one and one is an OpenAI one. So they both make it pretty easy to interface with the MCP servers. Inside the agent client in OpenAI, there's even just a MCP parameter that you can pass in. And we just give it our server URL basically here. And then it's going to know that it can query that and get the tools. And then we just have some predefined prompts here that we're going to ask it to do a little bit of math. Then we're going to say greet Sage. Maybe we'll change this to greet the workshop attendees. Let's see what it says. And then what's the weather in Seattle? So it's going to do that weather query. And then it's going to do the search for FastMCP Python using DuckDuckGo. Again, search results kind of vary on the DuckDuckGo, but it's a great free way to kind of get started here. And then the next week, we're actually going to be looking at using Tavili more, which is a really cool way to get started doing more advanced agent search. So I'm excited to dive into more of their features too. I've only used it a little bit for just getting some data. So we'll run Python OpenAI.client, and then it's connecting to the MCP. You can see it's actually doing requests to it now. Remember, this is just served locally right now. If you want to serve your MCP server, it's actually, I haven't done this yet on Hugging Face Spaces, but it should be pretty easy to serve on Hugging Face Spaces. I think for free, they have a good free tier. And then you can also do this on a whole bunch of other sites that are even made specifically for like hosting MCPs. And then I have an example of using Flyte and their apps. Flyte's an open source library that we work on at Union. So a lot of the weekly things, I'm probably going to use it in some case. Like you don't have to use it at all. It's just that's how I'm going to tie it into my work as well. So we'll look at that in a second of actually deploying something here too. So we see it connected to the local MCP, and then it called the math functions, and then it returned the greeting. Oh wait, did I didn't save it. That's why I didn't say workshop attendees. It just said Sage still. And then it called the current weather in Seattle. It actually, the API worked right now. So we got the current state. And then it did a DuckDuckGo search. And it said FastMCP Python. It's cut off there. Change Python. And it just gives us a little bit of results about FastMCP. And then let's go run the Claude Code one real quick. Actually, I'll open it up real quick. This is very similar to the OpenAI one, but it's using the Claude Code client instead of OpenAI. Passing in the MCP server. And then we're doing the same queries here. And then we'll go in. I'll actually show how to connect with a Gradio app for our more specialized MCP server. All right, so let's run Python Claude client, connecting to the local MCP server. And so this is cool too. You can do local ones. It's actually pretty common for you to run a local server that has information about something, and then you can connect it to, actually Claude has a desktop app you can use, and you can connect it straight to the chatbot there, or can connect it to your VS Code if you're using something, or like Cursor. And then obviously you have hosted ones for tools, and you can connect those easily as well. And then we just got the stuff returned. So it used the MCP server and either called the APIs or used those pre-built functions here. So if you follow along or you feel pretty comfortable with this, pretty easy, right? Does anyone feel like this was easier than you thought maybe to create a server if you've never done it before? Oh, someone said cool project idea. Create a simple NAN workflow to integrate with MCP. That would be cool, actually. I've wanted to play around a little bit more with NAN. It comes up all the time. I work in the AI orchestration space, but not in the GUI no code space, in the kind of the code space. And I've actually been interested in playing around with more of NAN because it comes up quite a bit for people that don't want to code it. So I said, yes, definitely. Hopefully that was in response to, did this seem easier than you thought? So again, really easy. We made something with like, what it was, this 5 different tools here, under 150 lines of code. Super easy to create a tool and then get exposed in the server. And there's a lot of other built-in stuff that I haven't explored. Like I was saying, these are kind of time limited in me making them. So like there's authentication and all this other stuff that you can do in fast MCP that I would recommend you checking out. But today we just use this, create a local server, and then you could deploy this pretty easily to, like I was saying, a Hugging Face space or some other places. John said, looks straightforward. I liked how you showed the server and 2 different clients. Awesome. Well, I'm going to show another one real quick. First I'll show real quick. So I deployed this as well in a Flyte app. So this is, again, you might do something similar to this if you're deploying to AWS or to Hugging Face spaces or something like that. I'm using Flyte. Again, that's our open source platform for AI orchestration, but also hosting apps. And so I just define a Flyte app here. I give it compute resources. I can give it the scaling. So I want to scale to 0 when it's not being used, and then it'll spin up to 1. And basically, this just took that MCP server that we already defined here and then wraps it in an app. And then I can deploy this with just saying like Flyte deploy app, and I give it the app name. And then I actually put in here, so on the Claude one, I can put in a little remote flag. Now it will ping this actually served. It's going to take a minute. This is the serving URL. It's going to take a minute because I have it scaling to 0. So when I'm not using it or no one's pinged it in a while, it's going to use 0 cost, or 0 compute, and then it's going to have to spin back up. So it actually spun back up really fast, or maybe it's calling it right now. Yeah, there we go. So it spun up decently fast, but it did take a little bit longer just because the compute was 0 and then spun back up. So this is, if you're looking at this code and you want to see how to connect to a remote one, where's that Claude one? You can go to Claude, and I actually just have a remote URL here. So if you host your own server somewhere, or you're consuming another server, and you want to take this code as a starting point or something like that, you could just change this remote URL to a different one. But this is where I have it hosted. And you saw, if you look at the Flyte app, it's really just wrapping. We created the server already in the other file, and then we wrapped it and then host it. All right, so now usually you're creating more of a specialized one, right? So I created another server here, which is this data server. And let's kill the first one, and we'll start the data server.py. So very similar to what we did before. We just have a little bit more complex functions here and a database that we gave it. Realistically, instead of having this little sample data thing that we created here for this demo, you would actually probably connect to like a real database or something like that. But this is going to work good for the demo here. So similar to before, just import fast MCP, create our sample demo, and then we're going to start creating our tool. So I made one that's load data. This is going to load in the data from the sample here. But we also have a load CSV. So we actually did have a CSV file you were connected to. It could load in that as well. And you could keep defining like connect to database, whatever you want, right? You can notice these are more complex functions, not just like a return a simple thing. And then, so this is really useful if you're building something like a data analysis agent or a machine learning engineer agent or something like that. You can define all these different functions that you know you're going to need to run over and over again. And then again, the useful part of MCP is exposing this to multiple agents or chatbots. So if you know you're going to be using on multiple agents or chatbots, or with your coworkers, and you want to just create a server where anyone can use their Claude code or Claude or whatever to connect to your database, you can allow that really easily through MCP here. We have a describe, so it's going to load in that data, describe it, filter rows, aggregate, top n, and then create chart, which is going to give us a cool chart based on data that we pull. And then that's kind of it for here. So now, instead of just running it through the client, well, actually, first I can run it through the client because I think I have one here. Python. Was it? Oh, yeah, data client. It was yellow. I couldn't see it for some reason. Data client. So we'll run this, and then I'll look in a Gradio app, which will be more fun. So it's connected to the local port again. And then inside that data client, sorry, I should open that up. We're basically saying to do some things like load the sample data set. Show me the top 5 cities by population. What's the average temperature across all cities? And then create a bar chart of population by city. So we can see we get all those answers replied back using those functions that we defined in our server. It's giving us New York as the top with this many people, etc. The average temperature across all cities is this population chart. And then they created a chart, and it doesn't show up in the terminal here, but it created a chart by population here with that chart function that we gave it. And then if we do this with the Gradio app, let's see what I call that. Oh, was it just chat? Chat app. And this will create a Gradio app. Has anyone used Gradio before? Also, something to note is that Gradio also can be turned into an MCP server. So usually people know it for like a UI. So this gives us a chat UI here, and it's a pre-built button. So I'm going to say actually create a pie chart of tech companies by city. But if you go to Gradio and you've built an app with tools and stuff like that in there, it's actually really easy to turn it into an MCP server. You just say something like MCP equal true, and then Hugging Face Spaces makes it really easy to deploy Hugging Face or Gradio apps. So Gradio is owned by Hugging Face. It's their open source kind of UI library. You can do a lot of really cool stuff with it. It has pre-built blocks like for chatting, showing images, sliders, all this cool stuff. So here we have this little chat interface, and now we can directly interact with our MCP server directly in the chat. What's something else we should ask it? So it's some pre-built things. Load the data set and describe it. What was the question that we asked for this one? Create a bar chart of population across cities. It's kind of cool, right? So let's try that again. Guess I could have copied this in. Create a bar chart of populations across city. So it's querying the MCP server, uses that function, pulls in that data, then use that function to create the bar chart here. And then we could obviously make this chat interface look better and stuff. This just is like the pre-built stuff out of the box. Renders the image in here is pretty cool. And that's it kind of for the plan stuff I had showing here, which I think we covered quite a bit for such a quick demo type of thing too. How to create a server, how to connect to the server, multiple clients, even doing it in a Gradio interface, which I didn't actually show. But you can go read all this code. You can go learn a lot more about Gradio. They have pre-built things like chat. They have other building blocks. They even have a cool thing now where you can just put in any HTML. So you have all these pre-built blocks, but also you can extend it now to really anything that you want, which is really nice. So when it said, am I calling Gradio via the server MCP? So I'm not calling Gradio via the MCP server. I'm calling the MCP server from Gradio. So it's doing basically what we did in this Claude client.py. It's just through this chat app. It uses Claude. And so Gradio calls the MCP server. So we have like local URL. This just connects to that, and then it creates an MCP client here, and then it gets access to all those tools. All right, so asking people again, how do you feel? Was this easier than you thought? Also, was this kind of a cool format for a, I don't know, semi-casual kind of demo of like building something? And what would you want to see next? So like I was saying, we had the first 3 planned. Would love to know what other topics people would like to dive into next in this type of format. And if you want to come in the stream too, like I was mentioning, you're welcome to as well. I think we'll get more regulars, and then it could be like you could demo your project too. So if you have something you're excited about, and maybe it's not in here yet, but if you're really excited about OpenEnv and you want to talk about it, you'd be welcome to actually come up on the stream here and talk about it as well. So I said it's way easier than they thought. Can't wait to practice it later on. Awesome. I'm happy this was hopefully really helpful in kind of breaking down the barrier of getting started. That's kind of, I think, really the core of this type of stream, right? Is it's not a structured workshop. It's going to be that I encourage you through the week too. Like if you join the Slack channel, keep an eye on the meetups and you're going to see the next topics. And then I'm going to say, hey, like this week, let's play around with this thing. So I would encourage you as well, if you want to spend like just an hour that week trying out one of the tools, I think you can learn enough usually to kind of break that initial barrier down. And then hopefully it's going to get easier for you to use as well. It's like for these things, if I had never done, MCP before, now I have this kind of resource I can come back to that I made even, and then extend this and build upon it. And so it's kind of knocked that first layer of me getting started off. I think that's really helpful because I know, at least for me, like that's something that stops me from doing stuff is just the getting started and getting over that initial hump. And I think in this kind of first hour or more, whatever you want to spend, you can spend way more than an hour. That's my target goal, is to at least do that and like get a kind of MVP demo working. That's going to break the barrier down for me getting started, but also hopefully other people getting started as well. Kenny said, thank you. Well, thank you all for coming. And John said, it's a great format. I need to soak in this information before I give a recommendation for future content. Yeah, no worries. If you do, again, you could join the Slack channel or message me on LinkedIn, comment anywhere that you see, or on this video. You can come back to it and say topics that you're interested in. I will be adding more. And I'm trying not to get too far ahead either, because I want to leave it open for new stuff that comes out. It's like OpenEnv just came out not too long ago. That's why I put it in here. It looks really promising. I've only fiddled with it a tiny bit. I want to spend more time with it. But if you see anything like a new model that comes out, anything like that, that's why I don't want to book like months in advance. I kind of want to leave it open. Like we'll have a few weeks booked in advance. If there's anything interesting, we'll add it in. But then I want to leave it open, like, oh, a new model dropped. We should play around with that in a couple weeks or something. Someone asked, do you have any prior videos on how to build an agent as a beginner? I have some other live streams on, let me pull it up real quick, on YouTube, but they're on a different channel. So they're on my works channel. We actually do a lot of streams there, me and my coworkers. So there's a lot of good stuff. Let me get the link real quick. Oops, my audio is playing out of another monitor. A lot of stuff is on here. I actually did a couple on agents recently. One is using LangGraph and Tavili. That's where I've used Tavili before for just doing basic search. Actually, that one's probably pretty decent. I'm going to do another one. I've made the tutorial a little bit better, so I'll probably do it again soon. Share the link on LinkedIn as well. And then also we have a lot of content on, let me get the GitHub link. So there's a, I'm working on a lot of workshop content. Again, these are more structured ones, so I haven't done a live stream for them all yet. But if you do want to check out more structured content, some of them are work in progress. Most of them are pretty good state. You can check out stuff there as well. But actually, if you go to LangGraph section, there's a LangGraph research pipeline. I need to finish writing a blog on it. I think that's going to be a really good intro tutorial for people when it's done. The code should work in there right now, but I need to probably polish it a little bit. But keep an eye out. We'll be doing a lot, or I'll be doing a lot on agents for works. If you follow in all those spaces as well, not just on my personal channels, then you'll probably see a lot of the stuff. Also, if you join the Slack channel, like I mentioned, this is for Flyte is our open source. This is the Flyte and Union AI channel. We're just kind of hijacking one of the channels in there, the ML and AI channel, and posting these threads. So you can see everything that I'm doing in that Slack usually as well. Oh, and someone had a great suggestion is, what about OpenClaw? That's a no-brainer. That should totally go in there. Maybe I'll add that in for the next one, because I actually haven't messed with that yet either. And I know there's so many variations too. Like I've, a billion different whatever claws for different sizes. Like there's micro claw or something that can run on like an ESP32. Like it seems really fun to dive into that. A great suggestion. Any other recommendations? OpenClaw is a good one. I'm going to write that down. And that was kind of really all I had for the what I was going to go over for like what I wrote this week. But again, I'll hang out for a little bit longer, and if there's still discussion going either back on the MCP topic or on other topics that we want to cover next, would love to hear more. Perfect. Terry just posted some topic ideas. That sounds great. How about agentic memory or simple multi-agent demo? Would like to see how this works, but in a good use case. Awesome. I will add those in as well. Also, I'll note. So, if you haven't seen before, I also run an AI book club, and we meet every month right now and read a new book every month. And the book this month we're discussing on Tuesday, and it's actually on context engineering for multi-agent systems. So for that person who just commented that, Terry, that might be interesting to you as well. Oh, and I forgot, normally I show the chat on screen too, but I kind of forgot for this one. We'll do it next time. That'd be fun to see people commenting from both spaces. Agent memory is a good one though, and then multi-agent. I've done some demos on that. That could be a good one too. Also, is there any frameworks, I guess, for agents that people are interested in? Something that makes it easier, maybe to like these could be open-ended. Again, I'm open for trying different things, but it might be interested to be like, building a multi-agent with Crew AI, for example, or LangGraph, or maybe it's no framework. But I think having a specific thing in there kind of narrows it down, and then it's fun to like add in different frameworks, and then we could do multi-agent with LangGraph, and then maybe weeks down the road, people want to do multi-agent with like Pydantic AI or something like that. I'm especially trying to just narrow the scope for the getting started. Like I was saying, I think the idea is just like, hey, spend an hour, try it out with this thing. And then so if you have that like LangGraph or whatever, there's going to be documents that you can go and get started there. Whereas if it's more broad, I know sometimes it'd be harder to like get started and find even just one resource to go through. At least that's my thinking right now on it. Yeah, and if you do want to join up the stream, I think I'll come up with some other ways for people to join. And I forget if I actually said this at the beginning. I meant to, that you can message me on LinkedIn. So I don't have an open link where just anyone can come up here, because you usually don't want that on the internet. But if you want to message me on LinkedIn or maybe the Slack channel, and I can see you're like a real person that's interested in discussing the topic, then I'll send you an invite link to actually come up here. And maybe we'll, like, when I've done weekly streams in the past for things, we usually get like a group of regulars, so I could see something like that potentially happening as well, and then I can just add you to like a calendar invite. But thank you so much for everyone coming in and discussing in the chat. This was really fun for me. I really liked it. I liked not having to build a super polished demo either. It was fun just kind of being able to put stuff together that I think was still a good enough demo to hopefully, again, break that barrier down for people to get started and use it as a reference. I know I will probably use these things that I create as references as well. So I think it'll be really fun. We just got to build out a really fun topic list here. OpenClaw, agent memory. All of those sound good. Maybe I'll actually put it in the Slack even. Oh, I see. Even people have been commenting in there. Perfect. I was gonna add these in, but I see Kenny's already in the ML and AI channel in the Slack and putting these in. That's awesome. Cool. Kenny said, thank you so much for the education on MCP. Thank you. Thank you for commenting and sharing the stuff in Slack. I think that's going to be really fun to communicate more in Slack during the week as well. So I'll create a thread in there maybe today or the weekend, definitely by Monday, for the agentic search with Tavili. And then if you want to follow along and study or build anything with that the week, you're welcome to. If not, hopefully I'll see you at the other stream and you can see what I built in next week. with that, I think if there's no other kind of discussion parts on MCP, then I'll probably wrap up the stream. Not that early, it's like about 15 minutes early than what I had booked. So this is pretty good. So I'm going to wrap it up. And if anyone has any questions, join the Slack channel, ask me there, or feel free to message me on LinkedIn. I think the links to everything like that is also in the description, wherever you're watching this. I'm going to share my LinkedIn link though real quick. I don't think I shared that earlier. Feel free to connect with me there and message me. But I'm going to wrap up for today, and hopefully I will see you all in the Slack, or some of you in the Slack, and then a lot of you on the next stream Friday. So hopefully this is a fun semi-casual Friday stream where we still get to do something technical, but it's not too hard. I'll talk to you all next time.